What are your favorite character ideas that you'll never play? Let us know in the comments below. Share the love. For me, one of my favorite concepts is an undead human warlock named Kaz, whose demonic patron was his childhood imaginary friend. The backstory is that the demonic patron made a deal with someone else to kill Kaz's father, but there was a mix-up, and Kaz was targeted instead, but couldn't be killed because reasons. The demon was still forcefully bound to him and pretended to be Kaz's imaginary friend to get close to him, but ended up befriending him. Years later, someone else summoned the demon to make a pact, and it broke their bond. Many more years later, Kaz is kidnapped by a cult to be used as a sacrifice. It worked, but you could probably guess who the summoned demon was. They recognize each other and make a pact to save Kaz's life. I can't play him for a few reasons. Firstly, I'm not that good at playing magic users. The patron subclass would have to be entirely homebrewed as well, but mostly what I find interesting about this concept is their relationship, which I can't really expand upon when I'm playing only one of the characters. Well, as a forever DM, I have quite a few characters I'll never get to play, as I don't want to insert them as NPCs just in case, you know? So what happens is, I have them all in rotation over which one I am currently obsessing over or building. Right now, my current squeeze is a half-elven shadow sorcerer whose entire town has been ritually sacrificed by a cult-worshipping an unknown deity referred to only as the Boiled God. He is awakened as a shadow sorcerer when the town's church Grim pulls him from a massive grave body pit. He would start the campaign looking for somebody, anybody willing to help. He's a sad boy, and I love him. I've got two right now. A Warforged Swarmkeeper Ranger who was lying, decommissioned, deactivated in a forest for a long time until a swarm of bees made his body into their beehive and accidentally reactivated him. An Earth Genasi Armor Artificer whose arcane armor is just multiple layers of dirt, rock, and mold that grow on him over time. All his infusions and spells are special kinds of crystals that he can also grow in his body. Unfortunately, I've never had a chance to play these characters. You know, the second one reminds me of Shale from Dragon Age Origins. Look her up. Maeb, the beloved dead child. Maeb was the daughter of a rural landowner who drowned in a lake as a teen. Her parents paid someone to revive her, which only sort of worked. She woke up, but as a reborn, without any of her memories or personality. Her parents worked tirelessly to help her relearn to speak, walk, read, and so on. But she's just not the same anymore. She's quiet, still, withdrawn, nothing like the lively, energetic child she once was. She can be perfectly polite and graceful, but her presence makes people uneasy. She can dance, but it's more like a leaf in the wind and less like fire. She can play music and sing, but everything comes out different. Melancholic and haunting. Sometimes the words are different. Sometimes in a language she doesn't quite understand. Maeb herself doesn't mind and is quite content with her strange new existence, but she can tell her parents are grieving the child she no longer is. Wanting to make them happy, she decides to go on a quest to regain her old personality back. Do note, she's a warlock with the Undines of the Lake as patrons, but she's unaware of it. She thinks she's a bard, probably requires a heavy dose of homebrew. I'm never going to play her because I feel weird about playing a teenage girl, and because I feel like it's a waste to have this character played by someone whose singing voice is a raspy tenor. Pact of the Tome, Great Old One Warlock. Actor feat to change voice and act as someone else. Misty Visions, One with Shadows, Mask of Many Faces. Spells like Dream, Enthrall, Major Image, Dominate Person, etc. It wouldn't work in a campaign because of its motives, which are to create a huge Cthulhu cult, use spells and abilities to infiltrate high society and slowly drive the leaders of towns and cities insane. Send them weird dreams. Make them see things with illusions. Have them hear voices in their heads. Have conversations with people they know, but it's actually him. Until they rely on him and he can turn them into a thrall, gaining greater control over the area. And then, finally, the entire country comes under his sway, and great Cthulhu awakens. Now that's one hell of a villain. I got to play it in a one-shot, but it only works at level 6, so I wouldn't be able to start it for a campaign. Undead warlock headless horseman. He was the henchman of a lich dispatched to destroy undead rivals. Polearm master with a glaive, reskinned into a reaper. Level 6 gives them the ability where they no longer need to sleep, eat, or breathe, which is critical for the headless thing. And the best part? When he used the undead aspect ability, a flaming Ghost Rider-looking lich head manifested in the empty slot. I made this character because I was the veteran at a table of newer players. They had enough experience to make their own choices, but would always look to me and wait for me to make the calls. So I made a character that had no head and couldn't give them any direct answers. Probably this shifter barbarian I've been working on. It's pretty basic. It's a giant barb that reflavors rage plus shifting into full-blown lichen transformation into a werebear. It's not that my tables won't allow cool reflavoring, it's that they're all meatheads who love martials, and someone needs to be able to do magic. An eladrin cursed to change seasons every day. It drastically changes her personality and memories each time. She needs to make peace with her former lives in order to lift the curse. Can't play it because I want it for a big campaign from level 1 to at least level 10, and we're not going to play any of this anytime soon. Bard Warlock Pact of the Chain, based on the legend of Robert Johnson. Smooth blues playing musician 90% of the time, but when things go sideways, he gets possessed by a demon and starts throwing fire around. Or Trickster Rogue Artificer. Easily get my AC above 25 with mirror image plus dodge. A monster with plus 6 to hit would have about a 1 in 4,000 chance of actually hitting me. Does about 50 to 60 damage per hit. That one I would never want to inflict on a GM though. Probably the dweeby little guy whose body was briefly inhabited by insert otherworldly being here, so that the being could thwart its enemy, which also happened to be harassing the little guy's hometown. The townsfolk now think little guy is some grand hero and send him out to become renowned. He'd attempt to sword and board for a while, how he/the being defeated the enemy, eventually falls into his proper class, something magical that the being leaves him with as thanks. Now, the problem here? Playing the wrong class is mad suboptimal and deadly. Would likely irritate the table. My regular table's obsessive need to fix problems immediately would cut the arc short. So, into the NPC pile he goes. Demon, air quotes, farmer. He's a kobold nerd who is super into farming. He just absolutely loves every fact about soil types, horticulture, and animal husbandry. Tries to set up his own farm on the frontier and is constantly dealing with bullies, bandits, and beasts, ruining his setup. Makes him screechy and frustrated. He just wants to farm. Why can't they just leave him alone? Becomes a Beastmaster Ranger to gain powers to improve his farming and fend off those who would interfere. A reluctant adventurer who only takes on a quest so that he can ultimately get back to setting up his farm just right. Rides a giant goat companion. Wields a pitchfork, which is how he got his moniker. Keen to play him soon, but haven't prioritized him as I'm worried he'll be too weak in a combat-heavy campaign. He'd have to be melee to make the most of his features, but I'm concerned he's too squishy to last long. Funnily enough, there's an anime with the same idea. The Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world. but I was thinking more of a common rider. However, there is no way that would ever work without being extremely lore-breaking and jarring for other players. Mechanically speaking, it would most likely be a Hexblade Warlock. I would use Mask of Many Faces, but only to transform into the Super Sentai look. Or I would play as a monk, and if the DM gives everyone a magic item, I would forego mine to have a custom item that just allows me to transform. However, that would be so far out of left field that I don't think any DM would put up with it. So I don't think I would ever force that upon someone. Warlock Monk. In service to a dark power that asks them to harvest one soul a day in exchange for the ability to read all languages and do research to uncover the identity of the evil force that slaughtered their monastery. When the obvious but delicious plot twist happens, they take some levels in Paladin and go to hell to confront their former master. Two of mine. Super friendly, lawful good ogre who's very dumb and once told, "People turn evil because they weren't hugged enough as kids." He misinterpreted this joke and now tries to hug the evil out of people because hugs stop evil. Alas, no ogres, no large creatures, and no way to have him accidentally hug people to death trying to squeeze the evil out. Celestial Warlock with a very angry, very judgmental Celestial in his head, constantly screaming at him to murder and destroy anything that looks remotely evil. Just wouldn't fit in any of the campaigns I play and would be very murder hobo-like if I tried. An older paladin who has memories of being a regal knight and loyal follower of his liege lord. He only turned to adventuring after his lord passed away, and he was dismissed. In reality, the character is mentally unstable. He was never a knight. He was actually a mental patient at an isolated insane asylum. He escaped after years of captivity and killed the first knight he saw. He stole his armor and horse and created a new backstory for himself. He completely believes this new backstory and refuses to acknowledge his horrible actions. As a forever DM, I have a lot of fun character ideas that I'll never get to play. My latest is a Goliath open-hand monk, maybe with a bit of barbarian sprinkled in, who uses the tavern brawler feat to basically become a WWE wrestler. Halfling Rune Knight Fighter. Grew up in a multiracial town city where halflings and other small races were mistreated by larger races. Halfling, half pay for a day's work. He starts learning about giants and finds ruins of a giant's home. Studies rune magic to stand up to those who bullied his people. I have a character concept I want to play, but haven't had the chance yet. A lore bard undead warlock multiclass, based on Christine from Phantom of the Opera. He's an aspiring singer who is being groomed by a lich bard to be his perfect successor. I don't make too many character concepts outside of a campaign context. I tailor-make them for certain campaign premises or settings. However, there is one exception who was supposed to be a backup character but never got to be played. I really want to play a Hexblade Warlock that is some sort of farmer or commoner who comes across the body of an adventurer. By grabbing their weapon, they are offered a pact by the adventurer's spirit that is in the weapon. Gain immense power and leave this dull life behind. But in return, you must take on my face and never let anyone learn of my death. Now, the idea is to use Mask of Many Faces to disguise themselves as the adventurer and assume their identity, trying not to be found out by the party while figuring out who or what killed the original adventurer, trying to maintain their reputation as a renowned adventurer. This concept works best for more traditional traveling around style D&D campaigns, which my group normally doesn't do, as we tend to run specialized campaigns and themes where a hidden identity character concept wouldn't gel as well. So this one has remained unplayed. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know in the comments below what are your favorite character ideas that you'll never play. And of course, if you want to ever help out the channel, make sure to join our membership program. You get early access to vids and maybe a bit more later on. We love you all. See you next time. Toodaloo for now.